What's going on, everybody? Cheers. Happy Wednesday, and welcome to the With Her Two Hands podcast, where each week we celebrate the women who build, fix, and make the things that make the world go round with her own two hands. I am your host, Bogi, and tonight we have a phenomenal guest I'm really excited to introduce to you guys. She is a construction welder out of Manitoba. She's currently pursuing her Red Seal certification, and she is super passionate about bringing more folks, particularly young women, into the trades, all the trades. So I know we're very like-minded on that. Been following her for some time now, and I'm really excited to get to know her a little bit. But before we bring her on, I want to say a quick thank you to all of you who keep coming back week after week to meet these incredible women and hear their stories, and are part of this movement to help normalize women in the trades and make it just a regular old thing where one day this isn't needed, where I am not a female mechanic. I am just a mechanic who happens to be female, where our guest tonight is not a female construction welder. She's just a construction welder who happens to be female. That is the goal of this in the end. So you guys are a part of that. So thank you so very much. And of course, thank you to our sponsor for tonight's episode, Drive Time. They are a phenomenal country. They're not a country. They're a company. I don't know what's going on. They're a phenomenal company that does a ton of work behind the scenes to help bring more folks into the trades, both male and female. They do a lot to support women in the trades through various things, including supporting this podcast. So we're very grateful for them. And if you're looking for a new to you car, they're a used car seller. They are definitely someplace to check out. They have locations. Drive Time has locations all over the country, but they also do a ton of training within the organization. So if you're looking for a new job or a new place to call your home, and explore your opportunities within the trades, they're a great place to do that. I'll have information for them in the description down below. And with that, I'm going to stop blabbing and I'm going to bring on tonight's guest because I'm so excited. I think you guys are going to really like her. So big, warm welcome to tonight's guest, Jenna Nowicki. Hello, hello. How are you?
Hi. Good. How are you?
I am fantastic. I am so excited to have you here. This has been a
Thank
long
you.
time coming.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I followed you for a long time. You were probably one of the first accounts I followed when I
Oh my
created my
gosh.
welding account. Yeah.
Aw, I feel so
Yeah.
honored. Yay. I've been following you for a while as well on my main page, and you've been on my list of women to reach out to for some time. You've done some really fun videos. I particularly, when I was actually talking to other people about recently, you did like a comparison between men's
Carhartt.
uniform pants and women's uniform pants. And I was like, oh my God. I was so proud of you for calling all of that out. That was you. Can you tell everybody about that real quick before we dive in?
Yeah, I was sorry to call the store. I was in Mark's Work Warehouse. Is that an American store too?
I don't think so.
No, okay,
At
mine's
least
just a
not by
Canadian.
me. Yeah.
I was in a Mark's Work Warehouse as a workwear store. And I had to pick out new Carhartts because I work construction and I had completely worn through my one pair. And they did have a small women's selection. I was very excited about that. But as soon as I touched them, I could feel the difference. Like they were so thin and almost canvasy. And so I walked over to the men's section, and the more I looked at them, like you could tell the men's had these gold rivets on them. The zipper said Carhartt on it, and it was really nice. The women's just said like the XYZ. It was, kind of a duller color. There was none of the rivets. The material was thinner. Like everything about it was just cheaper. And I was like, and the price difference, there was no price difference. I think maybe
Of
$10
course.
less for the women's. And I was just like, I would wear through this in a week.
Yeah.
Like just the thighs rubbing together would wear through in a
Right.
week. Like so I was like, what am I paying for here? So not only do I have to buy the men's pair, I have to then take to get them hemmed because there's no way they're going to fit me. And not only get them hemmed, but I also have to get the straps shortened because the whole torso
Right.
is too big on me. So
Yeah.
they'll hang so low, like the crotch is like halfway to my knees. So I need to shorten up the straps as well. And so I'm paying to get these like adjusted. And
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, that was my comparison video.
It's so amazing. I'm so glad you did that and called that out. And I feel like it's such a topic that like it gets
And I
brushed
also
under
want
the
to
rug a
say,
lot. Yeah.
The kids pair was the quality of the men's pair, and I almost bought the kids pair because they would have fit, but they didn't have the hammer loops or the pockets, like the rod pockets. And so I was like,
Interesting.
the trade-off is there, then I lose all my pockets, like except for the front pouch. But even the kids pair was like a better quality, thicker material. And I was like, why?
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I wonder what that's about. I mean, it's like, where does this decision making process happen? And is it just like right hand not talking to left hand? Or is there really like, is it that like blatant of a, well, we know kids are rough and tumble. We know men do
Mhm.
real work. Girls are just wearing this for fashion. Like, is
Or
it
I
really
think
like
they even
that
go like,
blatant?
well, women in trades, they must be painters, so they want to move around, or they must be
Mm,
drywallers only, so they don't need like tough work where they just need to like keep their clothes a little bit clean. And it's like, no, some of us are crawling around on the ground in shops or in,
yeah.
in the work in construction, and like we need stuff that's going to hold up. Like,
Yeah. And that fits us right. Like,
yeah. Yeah,
and
if
it's not
anything,
just
offer
gonna
both
look cute.
options. Like,
Right.
offer the nice thin option and offer us a good option as well, like a
Yeah.
thick option. Like,
Totally. And
yeah.
it's something that I find I can't stress enough to people. Like it is not just about we want uniforms that fit because we want to look cute while we're doing our work. That's not what it is. Like we want
Mhm.
uniforms that fit because it's a safety issue.
Yeah, I did have one job in a factory where we had to wear the coveralls, like the full
Mhm.
sleeves and everything, and they were so big on me, and I was rolling the pant legs up because they weren't mine, so I couldn't hem them. So I would roll the pant legs up, which just gets sparks in them, so it's a fire hazard.
Right?
And the sleeves are so big, it's like if you were to operate certain machinery, this is such a hazard having baggy clothing. One of the rules is no baggy clothing. And
Yeah.
then you put me in baggy clothing, I would be safer in my hoodie and jeans. Like,
Right.
what is this coverall doing for me? I'll take the dirty clothing, like,
Yeah.
but
And then we get made
yeah,
fun of when we're wearing clothing that isn't necessarily like, when you see women on like videos and they're maybe wearing jeans instead of work
yeah.
pants and they're getting
And they're
made
like,
fun
"Oh,
of for
you
that.
don't
It's like,
want to wear
well,
the shop clothing." It's like, no,
right.
it's
Like,
just not
no.
safe and it just doesn't
Yeah.
fit. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I do feel like it's getting better. Like there's more options now than there used to be. Like we're starting to see more companies that are like at least trying, right? Like the
Yeah.
bigger
Yeah.
companies have added the women's line and they haven't gotten it right yet, clearly, as you pointed out.
Yeah.
But we have some of those other companies that are like intentionally focusing on women's
Yeah.
work clothes, which is nice
And I
to
have
see.
looked at some of them, like, and I know sometimes the complaint is that they cost a little bit more, which is fair because they are making for a smaller amount of people, and I get that.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, I don't find fire retardant, and I know a few of these companies have even said to
Mm,
me, like, "Oh, we do have fire retardant," and I'm like, "But it's never in stock." Like every time I check, it's
yeah,
not in stock, and I'm a welder. I need fire retardant. Like
definitely.
it's just, that's the first thing I check off is fire retardant, and
Yeah.
if that's not it, then it's like it's no good. A freezer jacket is no good for me. I will set it on
Right.
fire in 2 minutes. So
Right. Yeah.
yeah, like
No, and similarly, some of the ones I've seen are like they have rivets all along the pants.
mhm,
And that's great if you're in construction, if you're in whatever, but I work on cars. I can't work
yeah,
on a car with rivets. I'm going to scratch the hell out of the paint job,
yeah,
right? I can't get on a motorcycle if I'm working on a motorcycle with rivets in my pants because I'm going to
yeah,
scratch the heck out of them. So they're not practical for me in
yeah.
that sense.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because it is all these different trades, and we're trying to make them kind of
Yeah,
satisfy all of our checklists, but there does need to be more options, and
yeah,
yeah, unfortunately, it's
yeah.
just not quite there yet.
I
Or
know.
another thing is there's a work store right close to me, a workwear store. They're really great. They have everything except for the women's workwear. They only order in, and there's no returns. And so if you order it in and it doesn't fit, that's too bad.
Uh,
It's yours.
right.
And
So
it's
you
like,
can't
so
try it
why
on,
why would I ever risk that? Like that's not even like online shopping. Even online shopping, you can return if it doesn't fit. But
right? And we
I'm
all
not
know women's
buying.
bodies are like so different from person to person. Like you have to try it
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm not ordering a $120 jacket to to find out it doesn't fit. Like,
Right.
so
Yeah. And I get it. It's rough. Like you said, we're a smaller percentage like of the people who are buying, so I understand that, but it is a growing percentage and if it's
yeah.
like at some point like what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? Like we have to
Yeah.
provide the options so that this can happen, so that we can see more women getting into it. I was talking to with a friend of mine who's in town right now. She works for Tesla,
Mhm.
and so she can't have steel toes, but she has to have composite shoes,
Mm.
composite toed,
Yeah.
and can't have metal eyelets, and she can't find anything in women's
Yeah.
sizes for that. So it's like all these like really interesting challenges that people don't realize we have to deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah, shoes are definitely the next hurdle. Like when I did construction outside, there was one winter work boot for women. So that's what I bought because that was it.
Right,
Like,
you know, one
and
choice.
and it comes in size 7 to start, which my foot's about a 6, so
Oh no.
my feet just happen to swim in these shoes a lot of the times, and it's like,
Oh my
this is what you
gosh.
get. You don't get an option. This is the shoe you get, and it's like,
Right.
okay, like, because there's no way they're making a men's size 4, because that's what they say to you. We'll just get the men's shoe. Okay, so I need a men's size 4? Have you even
Yeah.
heard of that before?
No,
Like,
I wound up
I don't
buying
think
boys'
so.
shoes when I was in trade school because they didn't have women's work boots back then because I'm old. And this was way long ago when I was going to trade school. But I had to wear work boots, but they did not make them for women, and they
Mhm.
didn't make sizes small enough in men. So I wore boys' Timberlands.
Oh, yeah? They made children's, steel
Little
toes?
little boys, yeah. No,
Really?
they were not steel toed, but they looked like they
Oh,
were. So I got away with it and I didn't get in trouble.
yeah. You're like, "Of
But
course
there were
they
no
are, just
options for
don't
me.
step on my toe."
Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's definitely more options, but again, like, you look at the women's wall and it's like, "Here's your 4 shoes," and you're like, "Cool," and then you turn around to the men's wall and it's like a wall of shoes, and you're
I
like,
know.
"Cool," like,
So
but
sad.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
Okay,
we can move
so
on.
let's get back to you now that we've gone down that rabbit hole for a little bit. Tell everybody where you're from, what you do, who you are, and then we'll dig into like how you got here.
Yeah, I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Um, yeah, I kinda grew up a little bit outside the city, but I live inside the city now. And I was doing construction welding, which like I absolutely loved, and I would love to get back into that. Um, I also wonder if I just struck it really lucky with a good job and a like a perfect crew, and I'll never be able to replicate that again. And then I am a little scared the next place will never be as good as that was. But I think that about every job, and I think, oh, the next crew could never be as good as the last crew, and then like the next crew like is just as good, and I'm like, oh, okay, so
That's awesome. I mean, that's
yeah,
the goal, right? Like for each job to
yeah,
keep getting better, that's the ideal.
yeah. I honestly, I sometimes I tell people like, or will like mention things. I'm like, oh, I used to do that. I used to do that. I've worked so many jobs, like so many different jobs. I worked in opticals. I've been in EMR on the oil fields. I've just like I was a nanny. I've done absolutely everything, and um, even in welding, like I've been welding for like 5 years. I've had 5 different jobs, and, like, everyone's like,
Mm.
"That's a lot," and I'm like, "Every job pays better, and it gets better, and it's, like, cooler and more experience," and, like, so no, I
Yeah.
job hop a lot, yeah.
I don't mind that, and I feel like there's been some efforts or like shifts in public perception on that over the years where that's seen
Mhm.
differently. Definitely back in the day, it was like, oh, you should stay in the same job until
Yeah,
you
it was like a red
retire.
flag if your resume had, like,
Right.
multiple jobs, and it was like, "Ooh, what's wrong with them?" And
Yeah.
now it's like, "No, I actually, like, I found better, and so I just moved on," or yeah,
Yeah.
like
I'm really grateful for that shift for a lot of reasons, but I think particularly for women because in the trades there's a good chance that the first place you land is not going to be friendly to women
mhm,
or that you might have issues. And so if you feel stuck, like, oh, I have to stay here just
yeah.
because I'm not supposed to change jobs too frequently,
Or they
then
feel like, "Oh, well, I owe them because they gave me the job, so they must be
right,
friendly to women," but it's like, but that doesn't mean they're like, that doesn't mean
right,
they're friendly to you or a good place for women. Yeah, they gave
right.
you that job, but yeah, that doesn't mean
Yeah. Or they
anything.
might be intellectually supportive of women in the trades, but don't know how to actually implement that
Yeah.
in a real life situation. And so it's nice that we're finally shifting our energy around that. Like as long as you're not bouncing just to bounce. You're bouncing because you're
Yeah.
trying to find like
Or
I
getting
want to
fired from every job, and
right.
they're just like yeah,
Right.
that might be
Yeah.
concerning,
Yeah,
but
getting fired from every job, that's not so good. Every 6 months, you don't
yeah.
want to be getting fired. But if you're moving to get new experience, learn a new skill set, expand your horizons, make more money, find a better
Yeah.
work environment. I think those are all like super legitimate. So there's
Yeah.
no
And
shade
I've
from
told
me
a
on that.
few girls that like are kind of new and they're in their first job in the trade and they're like, I don't know, like I don't really like it and I maybe I don't really like the work or the people or whatever it is. And it's like find something new. Like if that is possible in your area, like I understand if there is nothing in your area and you're like,
Sure.
that's what I've got. But if there is something else, move on. You don't owe them anything. Like
Nope.
you don't owe anybody anything. Like, yeah.
No, 100%. And even if you do live in an area where there aren't a lot of options, like you may have to move or commute. Like I've
Yeah.
seen that happen, and it's
Yeah.
sometimes you gotta do that. But I think that's what's so awesome about the trades is that there's so many different ways that you can do it, right? Like
Hmm.
you can be a welder in 8,000 different ways, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so if one isn't a fit, try something else
And
on
all
for
my jobs
size.
have been very different. Like one of them, I was fabricating swimming pools out of shipping containers. One
I
of them,
saw that.
I
That looks
was.
cool as
It
all
was
get out.
cool. It was a very cool job.
I need I
That
need
one
to
was.
know more about that. We're gonna come back to that one. You got some love in the audience.
It's my bestie. Yeah.
Aw, yay.
But yeah, and then the next job it was fabricating agricultural parts, and then the last job
Interesting.
in construction, I was actually installing those parts that, like from the factory I had once built, we were getting parts in, and I was like, I used to work at this company, and then I was like, oh my god, I used to build this thing. This is what it
Oh, how
is.
cool is
Cool. Like,
that?
yeah, and I got to like put it in, and yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a really cool, like full circle. I like that.
And honestly, and that's what I really needed. Like when I was working, building the agricultural equipment and like doing line work, I find it very mind numbing and like get me out of here. Like I don't want to build 200 of one part and then like pass it on and you never really get to see what it becomes.
Right.
And the people around me loved it and they were like, "No, I come into work every day. I know exactly what I need to build. I know exactly like
Mm,
where my desk is and where, what's expected of me." And it's like relaxing and like and it was a lot of kind of older people too and I was like, "Okay, like you like that, but like I thought I hated welding for a while. I was like, maybe I don't want to be a welder, like, and I need to get out. And I ended up getting out, and then a few jobs later, I ended up in construction, and I was like, this is what I need. Like every day is different, and it's like,
yeah.
yeah, and I get to see the finished product, and I get to go like, I'm the old dad now driving by, going, I built that. Look at that, I built that. Like,
Yep. I love that. I miss that because I don't really get that experience with cars. Like with cars I've built, like restorations, definitely. It's like, oh, that's my baby. I helped make that.
yeah,
But most of the time I'm just fixing broken cars. And so you don't get that same satisfaction of like, I fixed that person's AC.
yeah.
It isn't the same satisfaction. So I'm kind of envious of you guys for that. But
But you get
uh
happy customers. That's nice too.
yes.
Of people going like,
Yes.
"Oh my god, thank you so much. I needed an AC." Like,
Yes,
you know.
especially in Arizona. I live in
Yes.
Phoenix where it gets to 120-degree. Like people will sell their first child to fix their air
Yeah.
conditioning. So
Yeah.
definitely a nice thing. But I love that you say though that point about like you thought you hated welding. And I think I think one of the things that I wish more people in the general population knew about the trades is that once you've learned the skill set, how like it can never be taken away from you. You can only find more and different ways to implement it and make a living from it. You have so many different ways you can make a living.
Yeah.
And if you don't like the first thing, try something else. But
Yeah.
like welding is a skill set that you will always have and you will have 9 million different options of how you can make a living with that. And that's just so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
And for a short while, like before I did get to construction, I had a friend that was an electrician and he got me a job kind of apprenticing with another electrician and I was like maybe I can just pivot and try a different trade and maybe I did get into the wrong one, like I don't know.
Yeah.
And I did try electrical for a while and it wasn't for me and I was like, no, back to welding. I love welding. Like and then yeah, I ended up getting to construction and I was like, I just don't like line work. Like that's just not where it is for me. And but when
Yeah.
I can and like because I loved fabrication too. I loved doing something different every day and like building something new and like yeah, I just don't like monotony, I guess. Or
Yeah, no, that's
but
not, that makes sense. It's probably really good and useful for building up that skill set, right? Like the
yeah,
good time and like learning the precision.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. Like I couldn't sit still that long and do the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. But I mean, who knows? Maybe in my old age where I'm like, I don't want to climb over everything and
Right.
whatever. I do want to sit down,
Yeah.
enjoy my day and build, because I mean, our quota, I would do it by lunch and I was like, "Can I go home now? Like if I did the quota today, can I just leave?" And they're like, "No, you just do more of them." And I'm like, "Okay, like what was the point of the quota? It was so easy." And honestly, people like there was only four other guys in my shop, but they would get mad and they're like, "You need to slow down or they're gonna up the quota on us." And I'm like,
Oh,
"Okay,
sorry.
yeah, but it's like I don't want to just like drag my feet and go slow and check a text message and do a little weld and then eat a snack and then do another weld and you're just like, "Oh
Yeah.
my God, like this day feels like it's like 15 hours long." Like,
I could see
but
that being incredibly draining. So retirement career, like slow
yes,
down career.
yeah.
Because let's be honest, the trades is not easy on the body. And like
No.
at some point, like you do prefer something that's a little bit slower paced and
Yeah.
more chill. So
Yeah.
so let's go back in time real quick. How did you
Mhm.
get into welding in the first place? What brought you to this?
I was working at a place called Sally Beauty that sold hair dye
Okay.
and hair products, and I have pink and
We
purple
have that
hair.
in the US too.
Yeah, okay.
Nice. That one
And
we have.
and I loved it. I love hair dye and I didn't know what I was doing with my life and I was living with my boyfriend at the time and his roommate and they were both very nice people, but I was just like paying my phone bill basically and a little bit towards them like utilities and I was broke and I was like, God, this like sucks so much. And so one girl I worked with, she happened to mention, she was like, well, I did this like trade up your future program and it was like for a trade, but she had taken esthetician, I believe.
Okay.
And then another girl that I worked with, she was like, "Well, I used to be a welder, and like it was really cool, and blah blah blah." And like, I don't really like it anymore, but I think you might like it. And I was like welding sounds terrifying, and like I don't want to do that. Like I don't know. And so I was looking into this trade up your future thing, and they had actually removed esthetician and hairstyling and culinary from the list because they wanted women to pick. It was for women, and they wanted you to
Okay.
pick a more kind of, I guess, masculine trade and try to get you into those trades.
Masculine trades.
Masculine
In air
trades.
quotes.
So they kind of removed some of those, like the girlier ones. They were like, you can't pick esthetician or
Interesting.
hairstyling or culinary. You have to pick one of these other ones. And there was
Interesting.
like probably 30 trades on the list, but I only knew electrician, plumber, welder, carpenter. Like I didn't
The
know
rest
what
of them, you're
HVAC
like, I don't
was.
know what this is.
Yeah, like if we didn't learn it in like elementary school, I was like, I don't know what that is. Like, I don't know what HVAC tech is. I don't know what a boiler maker is. I don't know what a millwright is. Like,
Right.
I don't know what any of these things are. So I was really lucky. My junior high had a really big, nice woods shop that had a welding section to it.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and I hated welding. My welding teacher accidentally set my shoe on fire and burnt like my shoe and pant leg. And I was like, I never want to do this again. And I hate this. And like, just give me my grade and get me out of here. Um, but for some reason, I looked at this list of things and I was like, welder, sure. And I was like, and I told myself, I was like, you have to like this. Like, you get one chance at this. They're covering this course for you because I was too broke to take anything else in school, like to go to like actual university. So I was like, the government is going to pay for half this course for you. You need to like it. And if you don't, you need to at
Interesting.
least like it long enough to like pay back anything or to make some money out of
Make
it.
some
Like,
money. Yeah.
you get one shot here. And yeah, so it was like sink or swim, you have to
Interesting.
do this. So yeah, just picked
And
one.
fortunately, you liked it and got over your
I,
fear of getting set on fire.
about a weekend, I was like, oh, I think I like this. I got really
Okay.
lucky and like, yeah. And my stepdad was a mechanic and a truck driver, and
Okay.
my dad is an electrician. And it's like,
Okay.
why wouldn't you pick something that they do that they could help you with?
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know why. Because they're like, we don't know any welders, Jenna. We don't know anybody that can help you or that knows anybody or that could maybe get you a job somewhere. Like, we don't know welders. And I was like, oh, well. So, I mean, I can't say I didn't do it by myself. So,
Right.
yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. Do you know what attracted you to it? I mean, you had this like earlier kind of traumatic experience when you were way younger, and
Yeah.
then nobody in the family knows anything. Do you have a sense of what made you pick that?
Maybe it was the girl that I worked with because she had been a welder and she was a really cool, tough girl. Like she did like bodybuilding and like she was just really tough and like, but she was also very small and feminine and beautiful. And like she was also a hairstylist and did hair. And so like she was like both these things at the same time. And I was like, oh, that's like so cool. And so I don't know if it was her talking it up
Yeah.
or I mean, I'm not the greatest with math, like, that's my, like, struggle, and so electrician to me just said math, and I was like
Okay.
and same with carpentry, it just, like, screamed math, and I was like, "I don't know," and, like, maybe I'm not smart enough for that, but
Interesting.
and to be fair, if I had known what a millwright was, I probably would have taken millwright instead.
Hmm.
And a lot of the time I talk to women, I ask like if you are at all even a little bit good at math, take millwright. Don't take welding. It will open more doors for you.
Interesting.
So,
Explain me more about that. Tell me what why you say that and why that's a recommendation that you make to people.
um, this kind of for the Canadians here.
Okay.
Welding is not big in Manitoba. It's
Okay.
probably like the least I don't wanna even say, like, least respected, but, like, least almost taken seriously trade. Like, there's not even a standard pay
Interesting.
for welders once you get your red seal. Every other trade has a standard pay once you get your red seal.
I didn't
There's
know
one for
that.
boilermakers, there's one for, like, iron workers, but not, like, welders. Like, there's no
Hmm.
welders union. There's a pipe fitters union, there's not for welders in general. So it's not even really
Interesting.
recommended you get your red seal in Manitoba because if you put that on your resume, it can scare off employers because they'll be like, oh, they're going to want $30, $40 an hour because they're a red seal.
Oh.
But we're just like, we just do a lot of shop work here and a lot of like agricultural equipment shop work in Manitoba. If you want to make money as a welder, you have to go to Alberta, which is two provinces over. And that's where the big money
Interesting.
is. It's on like the pipeline. And it takes money to go out there. You either need a rig, you need to know somebody. I mean, you can go out and I'm sure you can find a job out there, but like there's
Sure.
higher standards. Like you have to be a red seal. In Winnipeg, you there's not even a level 2 and 3 in Winnipeg in our schools.
Hmm.
You'd have to go to either Brandon or the Paw, which is a minimum 2 hours away. So I had to just collect my hours, and I'm gonna have to challenge my red seal because I wasn't able to take my level 2 and 3. So
Interesting.
it's not a big trade here in Manitoba. And so I tell women if you want to travel, be a boilermaker. They're never inside Winnipeg. They're always traveling around. Um, but if you want to make money and you're decent at math, be a millwright. You'll still get to weld, but you'll get a lot better
Interesting.
pay. You'll get to do your levels a lot easier. You'll probably get apprenticed. Like almost nobody gets apprenticed in Manitoba for welding. Out of all the people I went to school with, only one got apprenticed, and only one of them has since become a red seal, and most of them don't even weld anymore. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is fascinating. I didn't know any of this. That's really great advice for people to hear. Do you ever consider, I have so many questions. Do you ever think about like going back or switching gears and going into being a millwright or any different kind of
Yeah, I've looked
niche?
into it. Like my other thing too is I do like to pull a lot of like young people into trades and stuff. And I'm part of a lot of organizations like the CWB group, Manitoba Women in Construction, where we go and talk to a lot of students. And so I would like to change some of these things and like bring the level 2 and 3 to Winnipeg and stuff because it feels very disingenuous to tell these girls to take these courses and to like join this trade and then as soon as they join it, you're like, oh, by the way, you can't take your level 2 and 3 here. And like, there's no standard pay and like, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, then why did you ask me to join this? Why did you tell me to join this? So, again, a lot
Yeah.
of the time, I'm not even really promoting welding. I'm promoting other trades. And I'm like, oh, like, again, like, you should be an electrician. You should be this. You should be that. Like, these are other things that you're really interested in. Like, go take these. And welding, I'm kind of like, I mean, if you really want to weld, like, yeah, okay, come be a welder. We do need welders. I don't want to tell
Interesting.
people not to be welders. But
Right.
again, if you want to travel, if you want to go to Alberta and you're open to moving, 100% be a welder. You will make so much money. Go to
Yeah.
Alberta. But I'm
Interesting.
a homebody and I'm like, I'm too old. I don't want to travel. So I'm
Oh,
like,
you're a baby still. You're not old.
but yeah. So
That is so fascinating to me. So do you see any like movement towards them doing more standardization in your area with welding, or is that stagnant? Like the groups that you're involved with, like I applaud the idea of saying like, no, this needs to be different. I want to work towards changing it. Um, is the pendulum shifting? Are things moving?
I'm hoping I don't have my red seal yet, and everybody on the group, like the CWB group, has their red seal. So I feel like once I get my red seal, maybe I'll understand things a bit more from
Mm,
their side of the view or something. But I have asked people multiple times at multiple events, multiple different people from different colleges, Red River, MITT, these are colleges in our area. Like, why don't you have 2 and 3? Why can we not have level 2 and 3? Every other trade in your school has all their levels. Why are we the only ones? And I get these kind of like roundabout answers. And sometimes it's
mm,
about promoting these other colleges and kind of like making you go out to them. And it's like, but
interesting.
no other trade has to do that. Like, you would never make the electricians fly or like drive up to the paw, which is hours away,
Mm,
for what, 2 months of your life? How do you rent an apartment for 2 months? How do you,
right.
you know, like, how do you take these courses that are 2 hours away minimum?
Yeah.
But it's not like it's a long course. They're kind of like 8 week, 10 week courses. So you're like, yeah, it's just, and then I lose out on things like when you complete your levels in Canada, you get bonuses. They give you like $1,000 bonus. And so it's like, well, because I'm not doing that and I just have to collect my hours, I lose out on those bonuses. And,
Interesting.
so yeah, it's just,
Wow. So there's a lot of layers to this.
yeah.
That's really fascinating. You've got your work cut out for you making waves in that arena, but I definitely, like I said, I applaud you for trying to stick it out and make a difference in that, because I think that's really important.
And
Um
I'm not the only one. I've met women at events too that have like, I have brought this up and I'm also trying to contact people and they like give me their card and they're like talk to me and we'll, try and figure this out. And
yeah.
yeah. So,
So you mentioned something earlier about how people maybe aren't pursuing their red seal because they're afraid it'll scare employers off. What is making you decide to say yes, I do want to pursue my red seal anyway, versus falling into that no, I don't want to scare employers off kind of mindset?
the employers that it'll scare off aren't the employers I want.
Ah,
Those
yes.
are those are the employers. A lot of it is for line work and factory work, and that's not the work I want to do. I want to do the harder work. I want to do the construction work. I want to do the stuff that requires a red seal. I would love to get a pressure ticket at some point. Yeah, so those aren't the people I'm interested in. I would also, it would open me up to teaching eventually if I want to kind of retire that way instead and go into teaching. Um, yeah, and yeah.
I love it. I love it. It's a great, phenomenal answer. Like I couldn't have asked for a better answer to that. Those aren't the people I care about.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. I love it. Very cool. So now your next steps to getting the red seal, you've got to collect hours because you can't do the level 2 and level 3. So
Yeah.
how much further of a process is this that you have left before you get to
I
celebrate?
actually like I ran into a wall the other day. I was so upset. I
Oh
had a
no.
little cry. I was so
Uh-oh.
upset. I have to get 8,100 hours and 4 years 6 months experience. I'm at 8,500 hours. And so I was like, "Yay, I'm way over. I'm 400 hours over." But I'm only at 4 years and 4 months experience. I'm at 2 months
Oh.
short. And so I handed in my paperwork anyways. I'm like, come on, I'm 2 months short, but I'm 400 hours over. Like 400 hours is 2 months of work, right?
Yeah.
No, they don't accept that. So they sent it back and
Oh,
they're like, just work for 2 more months. And I was like, well, I'm laid off right now. So you're basically telling me to just go get a job for 2 months and then reapply for my red seal. And they're like,
mm.
yeah, basically. And I was like, cool. So
Oh
I
my
was I was
goodness.
pretty bummed because I was going to use this time that I was laid off from construction to do these red seal tests, and because there's a practical test as well. There's 8 practical tests. So to go do
Okay.
these practical tests, do this written test, and kind of use that time laid off, and then get my red seal and just go look for red seal work after something with the city or one of the colleges or,
Yeah.
and so I was like really bummed that I have to go back to like lower paying work. And the construction,
Just to
yeah,
get
is
the time
just to get
experience.
2
Yeah.
months, and it's not even an
Yeah.
amount of hours. I'm like, I mean, I could call in sick half the days and you don't care as long as I'm there for 2 months, as long as I'm employed for 2 months. Like, does that make any sense? And so,
You might not make it employed for 2 months if you call in every other day. Just
yeah,
saying.
and honestly, and that's not me. That's so much insane. Honestly, one thing they're always like, "What do you bring to the table?" I'm like, "I will never miss a day of work." Like, if I miss a day of work, I'm dead. I will never be late. I sit in the parking lot a half hour early every morning. Like,
Oh my
being
goodness.
late gives me anxiety. Like, you can guarantee I'll be here. And actually, after I left my last job, one of the guys was texting me and they're like, "Oh, this other guy," they're like, "Chewy's the first one here every day now." And I was like, "Chewy's always 5 minutes late." And they're like, "Yeah, and he's the first one here every day now." And I was like, "Oh my God, like none of the boys are on time." So
Oh
yeah,
goodness. So
but
so why are you laid out? I know people are probably thinking this. Why are you laid off right now? Is it a weather thing? I know it's cold in Canada. Like,
there's
is
a
it
little bit of weather and a little bit of them
okay?
moving on to another job in a different province.
Oh, okay.
So we just built an oat mill, just kind of on the edge of the city,
Okay.
and it was finishing up. And they knew I was kind of itching to get my red seal, and I again had thought it was just an hours thing, and so I was like, I'm 400 hours over, and so like I could have done this months ago, but I
Gotcha.
really wanted to stick the job out to the end because there is a satisfaction of seeing your finished product. And
Heck
so
yeah.
they're like, yeah, no, we're in our last few days and it's getting cold. And I'm such a baby for the cold. Like the fact that I did construction outside last year in the winter, I was like, I was so proud of myself. Like I'm such a baby in the cold. So it was getting cold again. And I was like, I don't want to be here. And so they were like, okay, we'll lay you off. We'll give you the layoff early and you can go and
Okay.
do your tests and study and stuff. And it was kind of right before Christmas. And so I was like, oh, I'll have Christmas off and it'll be nice. Like it
Yeah.
definitely wasn't a dreaded layoff. I was kind of like, yay, I
Okay.
get to like, I mean, the pay is definitely a lot less, but it's like,
Sure.
I get to, take a little relax and go do these exams and kind of come out stronger
Yeah.
after this layoff. And so
Okay.
I was a little crushed the other day to find out that it's like, no, you need to go back to work for 2 months. But thank God for my networking and for being a part of these committees. I messaged my CWB chat and I was like, hey guys, I need a job for 2 months. And one of them was like, send me a resume. I'll have you a job. And like,
Awesome.
we should have you going by next week. And I was like, cool. Like, thank you. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Take notes, folks. Networking is everything.
everything. I can't even stress. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So what would be your dream job? So once you get your hours in, you get your time in, you get your red seal, you're going back looking for your job. Like what is in your experience thus far? Because it may change 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now. But right now, like what do you see as like this is the thing that I would love to be doing?
Um, Something kind of probably with construction again or just custom fabrication.
Okay.
Um, I love the construction in the summer. I can work all day in the plus 30 heat. It does not get too hot for me. I love it. Winter, I'm like, nah, like I need to get inside a shop somewhere. I'll put up with line work in the winter, but a custom fab shop where, you can work inside all winter, but you're doing something different every day, whether it's something as small as railings or like, I mean, I'll take anything as long as the job changes here and there.
That makes sense.
Um, a lot of people do go into teaching here right away.
Mm,
Um, I kind of like walk a line with that, especially getting into teaching so quickly after getting your red seal. It feels very like those who can't do teach, and they're
mm.
just like, I don't want to do this work anymore, so I'm just going to go teach other people how to do it on coupons, and then I never really have to do it again. And like, and I love all my teaching friends if they're seeing this that do teach and like I don't they're gonna hate me after this. um like you need good teachers too, and I think they are good
Totally.
teachers, and I understand like the comfiness of a job that's like 9 to 5 and your weekends are off and your summers are off. Like I get the allure. Like it I
Yeah.
am eyeing it up myself. It's like that would be really cool to do that. But at the same
Yeah.
time, it's like, but what do I know? Like, especially if I want to go and teach level 2 and 3, it's like, I mean, I've only been working for 5 years, and the
Right.
construction part probably taught me the most out of all the jobs I had. And that was just because, yeah, everything was so different every day. But yeah, it's like, so who am I to teach anybody? Like, I need to do more first. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I think I would like to do more.
I,
Just,
I hear you on that. And I yes, all the accolades to all of the teachers out there because I think it is definitely its own thing. And just because you're teaching doesn't mean you can't do it. Because I don't necessarily subscribe to that mindset. But I do think there's something to be said for like you can offer your students more the more life experience you have. And like
yeah.
my auto shop teacher back when I was in high school, when he went to retire, he reached out to me and he wanted to give me his shop for me to take over as the shop teacher. And I
Hmm.
only had 2 years of experience, and I was like, hell no, like I'm not qualified for that. And he's like, you're teaching them righty tighty, lefty loosey,
Hmm.
and how to change oil. You are like 100% qualified. Like you're teaching them the
Yeah.
basics. You know all of that. I'm like, yeah, but and absolutely, I could. Like you could
Yeah.
teach, you could be an amazing
Yeah.
teacher. I could be an amazing teacher, but like there's that life experience that I think is really
Yeah.
valuable to be able to help your students with.
And
So
especially when you're young and you can do that work where it's like, I like, why not save the teaching for when I'm older? It'll be there. It'll be waiting. There's lots of high schools, lots of colleges that need welding teachers,
yeah,
and I feel like it would only add to my resume to like to get my red seal and then to automatically be like, okay, I'm just gonna go teach now. It's like
yeah,
I would personally like a teacher that had more experience. So
yeah,
again, like, yeah, no slight to anybody that does go right into teaching,
totally.
'cause I definitely understand the allure and I understand the pay of it and all of that,
Yeah,
like all the benefits. But part of me is like,
yeah,
nah, like while I'm young, I want to go out and I want to do the work and like learn the
yeah.
stuff because I was even working with guys that were close to my age that they had just started when they got out of high school. I started when I was about 25. I got into
Mhm.
welding and the stuff that they know like so much more than me. And I'm like, wow, like you were
Yeah.
so far ahead of me and we're the same age. But you just because
They
you've been
started
doing it longer,
sooner.
like and
Yeah.
I was actually talking to a girl just before this that messaged me and she's like, "Oh, good luck on the show tonight and stuff." And I was like, "Thank you." And she's like, "You're so cool." And I looked at her page and I'm like, I mean, girl, you're so young and you're doing this. You're cool. Like I wish I would have known this when I was in high school.
Right.
Like I wish I would have started this when I was 20. I wasted 5 to 7 years. Like,
Yeah.
um,
Although I would never call it a waste because you wouldn't be who you are today if you didn't have
yes.
the experiences that you had. But I hear you. I had that same feeling when I was younger. I'm like these kids that like I went to college before I went into trade school. So these kids I was in trade school with like already owned their own homes and already knew all of
Yeah.
this stuff. And I'm like, what I've been missing out. Like what is happening?
Yeah.
Um but yeah. I also think and maybe I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. I feel like a lot of women particularly I'm seeing are going straight into teaching because they're having such a hard time finding a good job or a
Yeah.
good work environment. They're like, I love the work, but I hate the work environment. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to go do something where it's a little safer.
Yeah, where it's comfortable and I know where I'm gonna be guaranteed a bathroom and it's
Yeah.
yeah, like and a group of them now, it is a bunch of women teaching at the one college, and so they do have a really great workforce because it's a bunch of women welders together in this one
That's
college.
cool.
And yeah, so like they've created a really nice work environment for themselves, and
Yeah.
like I would definitely love to join that one day and be like, save a spot for me, like,
Right.
but yeah,
Yeah.
like I definitely get that too because there are days that like yeah, you don't want to just fight with like trying to find a decent bathroom and it's just like I just want to go
Right.
to work and like not hear the most out of pocket comments that sound like they're from the deepest darkest bits of like Twitter, like oh my god, like yeah.
Like I did not need to hear that. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I hear
the
you.
lunchroom is
Yeah.
so colorful sometimes and it's not the prettiest colors and it's just like
Nope.
yeah.
Nope. And it is a fine line between like what's acceptable and what's not, but it jumps that line really easily in a lot of places and very quickly. And it goes from like this is acceptable to like, oh, that was not okay at all. And then it gets there real fast.
Yeah, and you have to walk your line as the woman because if you call out everything, then you're just a Karen and you're not fun and they don't like you and they would
Mm.
rather you just didn't sit with them at all. And and that doesn't create a good work environment because you rely on those people. And you know, like if you scream, they need to come running. If you're hurt, they can't be like, what does she want now, like y-
Right.
yeah, like I don't know, you have to form a trust with these people, and you do some dangerous things together sometimes, and you need them to kind of be your friends here and there, and to yeah,
Yeah.
to rain on their parade every lunch day, you can't do it. And I worked with it was mostly a bunch of white guys on our crew, of course, it's construction. But there was this one native man, indigenous man, Kevin, and they sometimes would just, it's like they forgot we were sitting there, and they would just say crazy things, and Kevin and I would just look at each other, and we're just like. And
Mm,
the one day Kevin and I walked out of the break room, and I was like, Kevin, how do you handle it? Like they say some of this stuff about indigenous people, and then they look at you and they're like, oh, sorry, man, like
oh,
forgot you were sitting
oops.
there.
Yeah.
And he's like, if I fought people every single day at work, like I wouldn't have a job. Like I can't
Yeah.
do that. So you have to just let it roll off your back. And it's like, yeah, like I guess so. But you know what? There when the oh, I'm not gonna think of their name, but when the beer can, the Bud Light incident happened, was that a big thing in America? The
Yes, it was.
trans,
Mm-hmm.
yes, it was a big thing here too. And the guys at work lost their minds. And the one day I just couldn't take it anymore. And I was like, who cares? Like, what did the scary trans person do to you? Like, what are you okay right now? Like, what is your guys' issue? And I really went off on them in the break room. And they were kind of like, oh shit, like we made her mad. And they were like, oh my god. And my boss came to me later, and he's like, are you good? Like, I'm sorry, like, are we all good? And like,
Mm,
are you on HR? And I was like, no, like I'm not. But just like
interesting.
sometimes I just don't need to hear it. Like, and you don't know who's in the room that maybe identifies with these things. And like, and I did have someone come to me after, and they said, I have a trans friend, and like I appreciate what you said. And maybe it wasn't right of me, but I said, maybe your trans friend would have appreciated you standing up for them. Just because they're not in the
Mm,
room, it doesn't mean you don't defend those people. And again, I understand why some people stay quiet because they have to work with these people. But, it's
yeah.
like sometimes you get tired of being quiet. So you pick and choose
Yeah.
your battles, but sometimes I pick mine, and
Yeah.
they know I'm feisty. So,
There's
yeah.
there's so my God, we could unpack so much in this. There's so many like different directions we could go down this rabbit hole. I applaud you for standing up. That takes a ton of courage to do. And I maybe you're leading by example, and some other folks will stand up for their friends who are other in whatever way that is, as
I
a
think it
result of
also
seeing you do it.
takes knowing you're kind of in a safe space as well. Like I knew I was friends with a lot of those guys, so I guess part of me also knew saying what I was going to say, as much as it would kind of piss them off, they weren't going to hate me forever. Like we would still work together the next day. Like it would be okay.
Yeah.
If I already felt threatened by the crew, and that maybe I wasn't in a good position with the crew, or that I wasn't maybe buddies with them, maybe I wouldn't
Yeah.
have said anything, because you're like, I'm already on the outside. So for someone that's already feeling marginalized, that could be extra hard for them to say. So
Right.
I mean, I really love to get along with my crew platonically. I love to make friends with them. I bring baking in. I'm like their little sister. I love being that. I love hearing about their girlfriends, and I love talking them up. And
Yeah.
so I felt like I was in a decent enough place where like I was good enough buddies with them that I could be like, you know what, this is too far this time, guys. I don't want to hear it. Nobody wants to hear it. Like just today. And they were like, okay. And we went a very long time without me hearing any kind of weird stuff like
Interesting.
that in the break room again. It did come back eventually, but it took a while. Like,
So they did receive it well. They didn't like blacklist you now and like now we're not friends because you're complaining, quote unquote.
yeah, I think even a few of them were maybe a little worried that I didn't like them anymore, and they were kind of like testing the waters again, like, are we still
Interesting.
good? And because guys, like
Yeah.
they'll fight
That's
on a
power
crew,
right there.
right? Guys will fight on a crew, and like they can say some pretty mean things to each other, and they're fine the next day. They're fine 5 minutes later. They're like
Yeah.
they're good. But
Yeah.
they think if you get mad, like it's the end. They're like, oh, she
Right.
just hates us now, and you're like, I'm fine.
Right.
Like
That's awesome.
made me mad in the moment, but like I'm good, you know, like
Well, and there's like there's a really powerful lesson in that too, is like when you pick your battles, when you're not complaining about every little thing, then it
mhm,
is that much more powerful when you speak up,
yeah,
because people are listening, and you've earned the right because they
yeah,
respect you,
yeah,
um, and so they're more willing to listen to you than if you came out the gate like complaining about everything. And it's
yeah,
obviously it's a shame that there is so much to complain about that we have to ignore and just like take off the cuff. It
yeah,
shouldn't be that way, but there is power in that, like,
yeah.
you don't speak up about every little thing, but when you do, people are like, "Oh, snap."
This
Uh,
one matters. This one she cares about, and it's like, yes,
yeah,
like
and we should maybe listen
yeah,
to her.
yeah.
There's a point.
Maybe we
Yeah.
don't need to talk about this every day in the break room, and it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
because again, if those are your views, fine, those are your views. Why do I
Right.
need to hear it in the break room every single day? Like, you know, so
Move on. Right?
yeah,
Like, move
yeah. Like
on.
anything else? Is there anything else in the news? Like,
So we don't have a ton of time left, because we've gone down some really fun rabbit holes. I've really enjoyed this conversation. This has been fantastic.
yeah.
I'm curious. A big topic of conversation that has come up for me a lot with folks is a lot of trades people, mostly men, because in the past generations it's been mostly men, um, are saying that they wouldn't want their kids going into the trades. There was some like absurd number where
People
like
in the trades are saying this.
yes, yes. Like
No.
there was a study recently that like I don't remember if it was 60 or 80, but it was like a really high percentage of auto mechanics did not want their children going into
Hmm.
becoming an auto mechanic. So I'm curious, you said you have family that was in the trades. How did they
Mhm.
respond to you going into welding? And were they
Mhm.
upset that you didn't pick their trade? Were they upset that you didn't do something different entirely? Or
Mhm.
how was their
Uh,
response?
when I was fresh out of high school, I tried nursing. So that was my go at university. And I got
Okay.
about halfway through level 1 and I was like, this is not what I want. And I knew going in it was not what I wanted. My mom's a nurse and it was her thing. And like, and I think everybody was just like, oh, you're so caring. You'd be so good at it, you know? And like, yeah, it just didn't work out. So that's when I was hopping around. I was doing retail and stuff, and I was like, I need to pick something else. And so, really, a trade was almost picked out of desperation of like,
Mm,
you have no other routes. Like, you can't afford another university go. Even other college things are expensive. And I mean, me and my mom are very hard on ourselves when we're like, we're not good at math, we're not good at science, like we're not smart, and then we like come out as like nurses and welders, and we're just like, okay,
right.
maybe we are smart, but like
Yes,
we're
you
just,
have to be
we're very
very
hard
smart
on
to be
ourselves.
successful.
Yeah, and we just like we feel like we're not good at those things. So I even looked at these other trades, and I'm like, I'm not smart enough to be an electrician. I'm not
Mm,
smart enough to be a carpenter. Like, what could I be? Like, and yeah, so I mean, I don't think any of my parents were like, "You didn't pick my trade." I think by the time I picked a trade, they were like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, good. Try it. Like, sure, why not?" But like when I was in high school, like that wasn't even really presented as an option. Like my high school didn't have any trades in it. There was high schools near us that had trades, but it was almost presented as like that's what the dumb kids do, and that's like
mm,
if you aren't good at school, you take a trade.
yeah.
So, which is so disappointing because, like,
So
again,
disappointed. It breaks my heart so much to hear that.
I wish I would have started this when I was younger. Like, I totally wish I would have gotten into this at a younger age.
Yeah.
It's like, so yeah, like, I don't know. What was the question?
I don't mind the rabbit hole you went down because that was fantastic. It was how your family reacted, whether they're supportive of you pursuing this, but what you
Yeah.
brought up is just so freaking important, like that we still see these as trades for not so smart people, which is not true at all, and
Yeah.
it breaks my heart even to hear you say that you didn't think that you were smart enough for these jobs when like these jobs require smarts. Like you clearly are very smart because you've been
Yeah.
successful and you
And
have
again,
to
like they
be.
teach you again, and things that you feel like you didn't know in high school, like you go back and you're like, oh, this actually isn't as hard when I actually kind of care now. And, and I was a good
Mm-hmm.
student in high school. Like I was by no means a dropout or anything, but yeah, it was just so much easier the second time. And I was like, this
Yeah.
is easy. I can do this. Like I'm sure I could have done carpentry or electrician or one of the
Yeah.
other ones, but yeah, it's and it's weird to me that tradespeople aren't promoting it to their kids because I feel like
Yeah.
we are kind of getting to a time where certain college degrees people are getting and they're like, it's not getting me anything. It's not getting me this
Right.
job that it promised me. And then what do I have? A piece of paper. And it's like, I mean, hell, even if the world ended tomorrow, I still have the skill of welding. You
Hmm.
can't take that from me. Like,
Exactly.
so yeah,
Yeah.
like
I think it has to do with certain trades, and maybe harkens back to a little bit of what you were talking about with like welding not being as like kind of valued as much as some of like the millwright and other trades where you're at. Um, so I think certain trades, folks within them are saying, "Don't do this one. Maybe go do something else."
mhm.
Think
And that can
definitely the
definitely be, like,
automotive.
regional too. Because again, like,
Yeah,
welder in Manitoba, not a great choice if you're gonna live in Manitoba forever. Welder in Alberta, yeah, great money,
really good
smart
choice. Interesting.
decision, So,
Yeah,
that could really change depending on where you are, and things that, like I mean, that you probably have to think about, like, cars are changing. There's a lot more
yeah.
computer than maybe mechanical parts at some point, and it's like, how much are you now becoming more of a technical person than and I'm sure it's gonna have both mechanical and you
Always,
know,
yeah.
but you aren't just doing and like that is one reason I have a truck from 1996 because I don't do computers. I am very bad with computers and so if that thing breaks down, I need to know parts and like
Right.
it cannot be a tech issue. Like and yeah, that's something I consider even like we've been talking about or I've been looking at new vehicles and it's like, it's gotta be something old because I don't want
Right.
like, the new ones actually scare me more than the old ones, like
Yeah, that might be part of it too. And I think sometimes it's a matter of like, we talked about earlier, like a lot of people wind up in job environments that they weren't happy with. Maybe it wasn't the best workplace, maybe they didn't have the best work culture, but they felt like they stayed out of they had to, they shouldn't bounce around from job to job. And if you're unhappy in your career for totally unrelated reasons to the career itself, then you're probably going to not tell your kids to pursue it because you
Mhm.
weren't happy, right? So I think
Yeah.
that might be part of it as well.
The beautiful
And
thing about the trades is that they pivot so nicely to each other. So many of them are so close to another one where
mm,
it's like, if you don't like this, use that skill to maybe go into this. Or again, like even some of them like welding, it's like, okay, well, there's fabrication, there's line welding, there's construction, there's
yeah,
even different types of welding. There's TIG welding, MIG welding, stick welding. Like if you don't like one thing, maybe it's not like with me, it's like you didn't hate welding, you hated that job. Like,
right.
so
Yeah,
yeah, you just need to change your environment a little and then, yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I love it. Okay, we don't have very much time left at all, so I'm going to ask you my final question that I love to ask folks, and that is, all right, Miss Jenna, you have the opportunity to speak to the younger you.
Hmm.
What are your words of wisdom to her?
Take the trade sooner. I wish I would have taken a trade sooner. I wish I had been presented as an option to me. I probably would have gone to a different high school. Uh, yeah, take the trade sooner and squirrel money away more. Stop, like,
Mm.
don't take nursing and don't take that loan out. That's what I would say to her.
That's awesome. I love it. Very specific advice, but also very applicable to probably a lot of folks watching. Yes.
Don't go
I
to
love it.
university unless you know what you want to do. Don't take it because everyone else is
Mm.
doing it. Don't go take a trade just because that's what everybody else is doing. Take it because you know you want to take it.
I love it. I love it. We
Yeah.
just flashed your Instagram handle up on the screen. For those who are listening instead of watching, it is Pink Fire Welds.
Mhm.
Definitely make sure you go follow this lady and keep up with what she's doing. I am sure it's going to continue to unfold, and you're going to continue to do fantastic things. You're a rock star. This has been fantastic getting to know you. So thank you so very much for agreeing to do this. You're
Thank you
amazing.
for having me.
Absolutely. It has been my pleasure. Folks at home, I hope you guys have enjoyed meeting Jenna as much as I did. If you did, make sure you share this video to somebody who needs to see it. She had a lot of great inspiration and words of wisdom. I think it's a lot of stuff that a lot of people can relate to. So definitely make sure that you pass this on. Make sure you come back next week to meet another incredible tradeswoman. And of course, on Monday, every Monday, we release an archive episode of this series, Past Life as Trades Lady Happy Hour. So we're still working through all of those archive episodes being released. So 2 times a week, you get a chance to meet another incredible tradeswoman and hear all about her journey and be inspired by her. So make sure you hit like, hit subscribe, share this with your friends, leave comments. The more comments, the more likes, the more subscribes, the more people see these videos, the more people hear these stories, the more we normalize women in the trades and the women who build, fix, and make the things that make the world go round with her own 2 hands. Thank you guys once again for being part of this journey and this mission to change the world and change how women are perceived in the trades. I appreciate you all. Big thank you again to our sponsor for this episode, Drive Time. Make sure you go check them out and give them some love as well for supporting programs like these. Thank you guys. You're all wonderful. Have a fantastic rest of your evening. Until next time, be good to yourselves and be good to one another.